about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this headline made people nervous that there were 1,000 bottles of a shampoo that got recalled because it contained deadly bacteria. Now, I don't know how much of this happened in the U.S., but Germany-based Henkel voluntarily recalled 1,068 units of its Tech Italy shampoo for dry and damaged hair after the product tested positive for Klebsiella oxytoca, which is a bacteria that is usually found in the GI tract and nose. It's harmless in the GI tract, but it can kill 10 to 20% of patients if it gets into the bloodstream. Now, according to the FDA, recalled products were shipped from a facility in Mexico to the distributors CNR Beauty, Caesar's Professional Products, and Vero Beauty distributors. And they say Tech Italy is a popular brand sold at stores like Walmart, Target, and Amazon. The affected products were sold directly to salons where customers can purchase them, even in America. It's unclear how many salons sold the products and how many customers purchased them. No illnesses have been reported, but the affected products have expiration date of May 27, 2027. So this recall is designated, according to Daily Mail, as a Class 2, which refers to a situation in which use of or exposure to a violative product may cause temporary or medically reversible adverse health consequences, or where the probability of serious adverse health consequences is remote. Now, this recall comes after Tech Italy's Tonico shampoo was recalled in January because of E. coli. You don't want E. coli or Klebsiella anywhere near your bloodstream. Yeah, they colonate our intestine, but you don't want to get somebody else's, and you definitely don't want to get a UTI. You definitely don't want to get a sepsis, and it can enter the bloodstream. It could even cause pneumonia. So symptoms of a Klebsiella infection could be a UTI, could be lower abdominal pain, pain with urination, vomiting. And even though antibiotics can address it, to get it by a shampoo, no, you don't want that. And when I shampoo my hair, I got a lot of hair. So I use a lot of shampoo, and then when I wash it off, it's dripping. So it's getting in my eyes, it's getting in my mouth, it's getting in my nose. So it's very easy to get contaminated from your shampoo. If you could shampoo your hair like they do in salons where your face doesn't get wet at all and you just lean the hair back. See, I don't like to do that because I get cold. You know, if I'm away from the shower spray, then I'm getting cold. So I want to be in the water when the hair is getting washed. But some of you might be like, well, I don't think I use that brand, so I don't care, Dr. Daliah. No, you should care, because if this Tech Italy shampoo brand is having issues, what other brands are having issues? Usually these distributors or manufacturers or whoever aren't just doing one teeny weeny isolated product. They're working on multiple. And so my concern is whatever haphazard protocol is being done where they had to recall because of a Klebsiella infection in shampoo, then what other manufacturers are also having that same issue? Remember, there were blood pressure medications that were recalled because of NDMA and NDEA, which was a nitrosamine that could be linked to cancer. And everyone's like, well, this originated from a facility in China where they make generic meds. And I'm like, well, if they're using the same protocol as places in Italy or U.S., then there could be more of this. Everybody needs to get, their house in order. And so I'm concerned about that. And then you wonder, well, if shampoo had Klebsiella, what else? I mean, when I use my shampoo, I am assuming it doesn't have bacteria. Now, it's not sterile. Our shampoo is not sterile. We don't open up a package that was autoclaved, crack open a bottle. It's relatively clean, but it's not sterile. And to think that something could have something brewing in it, I think you do need to be aware. And this is a good lesson that our soaps, certain things that we're putting on our bodies all the time could have that risk. We hope that our toothpaste doesn't. Can you imagine? But, keep in mind that not everybody is doing their job. And that's the problem. If everybody does their job, society works really well and things get done. But when somebody is not doing their job or doing a bad job, things go wrong. And it stinks that not everybody has the same work ethic. I don't know why we had to have a formula recall for alleged Chronobacter Nakazaki bacteria, which the Michigan Abbott facility passed an inspection with no sign of that. So I'm not exactly sure how the bacteria got in. But it put, I don't know how many lots of formula on recall. And then we had a major formula shortage. The good to that is a lot of moms are breastfeeding. A lot of people who were pregnant during that time said, forget it, I'm going to be breastfeeding because I don't want there to be a formula shortage and I can't feed my baby. So, there was a silver lining to that because I think it's great to be able to feed your own child. But not everybody is doing their job. And when they don't do their job, things, just like with planes and, why are we having panels on planes fall off? I mean, what the hell is going on here, people? So, federal government is hopefully going to be getting their, ship in order. Ship, S-H-I-P, I said, ship. Okay, I'll just say home in order. See, I like the term ship shape because it kind of works on my lisp, ship shape. All right, but I got to be careful saying that just in case somebody thinks I said something else. 1-877-Doc-Daliah, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC, Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, YouTube. Click like and subscribe. And, of course, if you ever miss any of our shows, go to drdaliah.com. You can go to TalkStream Live. We're all over. And thank you for that. Thank you, listeners, for that. So there's some chaos that has ensued. Nope. As it pertains to, we have an overly bloated government, too big a government, and that's one of the reasons why Trump was voted into office. But to try to shrink the overly bloated office has caused some chaos, and I don't like chaos. I want things to be smooth, right? Because chaos makes people angry. It also makes people kind of wonder, is there a better way to do things? And so I understand on one end why Trump wants to decrease the number of workers we have. I mean, people were gasping when they heard that the IRS was going to be increased by 80-some thousand workers. You're like, why? What? Don't we have enough IRS workers? And what, do we really have to hire more? And so I think it's a very, very popular stance to cut waste, fraud, and abuse and to minimize, shrink the government. I like more states' rights than government. I like smaller government, less government, more states, local, handling what they locally need. But when you mass fire federal workers, that's a problem. Now, the mass firing is being halted by federal judges who has actually said you had to reinstate all of them. And now I guess Trump is going to be going to the Supreme Court to see if federal judges are able to intervene with his executive orders. And while this back and forth is going on, there's a simpler way to decrease government bloat. Now, I think Elon Musk and Donald Trump know the simpler way, but it's slower. And they want results and fast. And the reason why they want results and fast is because the midterms are coming up in less than 2 years. And in fact, by next year, we're already in campaign mode. So, and this is Trump's second and final term. So if he wants to cut thousands or hundreds of thousands of federal workers to minimize the size of government and let them go out into private arena, then or civilian, or well, they are civilians because they're the federal civilian workers. He feels he needs to act fast. But if you want to do long-term and less chaotic and more popular moves, I would suggest, one, doing what the Pentagon has already suggested they're going to do. First, what they're going to do is whoever is retiring, they're not going to replace. Now, I mean, not everybody. In some positions, you need it. But as you have the natural attrition of people aging out, wanting to retire, collect on retirement, collect their pension, if they leave, don't refill that spot. Number two is then do a hiring freeze. If when you go to USA.gov for jobs, or is it USAjobs.gov? Oh my gosh, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of jobs. Well, if we really have too many people, then maybe do a hiring freeze. Only staff or hire for the positions that are really, really understaffed. Ask the management, which they have done, to go and see how they can manage this better and what is your plan to shrink your size by 5 or 8%. Now, the probationary workers are the ones that have been under the, shall we say, knife, because they were Biden hires. So probationary are those who are there less than a year. So they would be assumed to be Biden hires or hires under a Democratic administration, meaning, then to Trump's administration, not very necessary if they were just hired, because they were hired to do what Biden wanted. He wanted to expand the IRS. Well, then we don't want to expand the IRS, so you guys don't need the job. What I would, though, do to make it less chaotic is, one, those probationary workers who are fantastic, but there are other departments in the government that do need staff. So give them an option to be in another department. Give them an option to take a severance. Where I think the Trump administration made a big mistake is they offered that kind of severance where basically to people who worked remotely, saying, look, for those of you that don't want to come back to the office, which, by the way, I think was very smart. You need to come back to the office. We're not doing this working from home. We're paying for office buildings. We need to know if you're being productive. You don't want to come to work. You don't have to come to work. And we're going to pay you all the way through to September. But they had to sign up for that deal by February 6th. Where I disliked what Trump did was a week or two later, people who were loyal saying, look, I am working on site. I have no problem working on site. I'm making the commute. I'm here. Then they get canned. And they're like, well, I should have gotten the deal. So that means if I was a remote worker, I make out better than me. So that, what is he trying to incentivize for? So there's not a lot of incentives. Now, a lot of people took the deal. A lot of people quit. We're going to be firing people, whoever doesn't want, is concerned and they want to quit now, and some departments were offered a severance, but that's another problem they did. They didn't offer everybody a severance. Only certain departments got it. And then they fired people and hired them back. That looks chaotic. You can't be firing people and hiring them back. So you gotta, this could be done. And I understand Doge is supposed to expire July 4th. Doge is not supposed to be permanent. Elon Musk and his team was originally with Vivek Ramaswamy was supposed to figure out how to save money, do it fast, and then leave. Once you had 6 months to fix the budget, leave. So I understand why but you could at least come up with the plan. Probationary workers that were hired for Biden directives and we're not doing those directives, they aren't needed. Now, for somebody who left a job to pick a government job, I feel bad for them because all these decades, a government job meant once you're in, you're in. Even if you sucked and you were a horrible employee or you didn't do your job well, you would just be transferred or promoted to another department. It was really hard to get fired. And so Trump has changed that where they made it easier to get fired from a federal job. But, out in the regular private sector, especially if you're at what's it called, an at-will state where you could be fired for any reason. If you don't do a good job, we could fire you. I could be fired. Depending on where I live. Certain states, you don't do a good job, you can be fired. We don't have to do severance. We don't have to, we don't have to pay you as an employer. Go find another job. So for that federal, once you're in for life. Yeah, I see why that's an issue. And I see he wants to change it because if a federal worker is not coming to work, if they are refusing to work at the office, they want to work remote. And I get it. Sometimes there's family, things you need to do to help with your family, et cetera. But again, if you're not doing your full-time job because you have to be at home doing other things at home, then maybe work part-time for the government or do a different job. If that job for the FDA or the USDA or the Department of Education, whatever, is not, you're not doing what the government needs at the time. So my recommendation is hiring freeze, repurpose some of the departments if you are restructuring, move employees who really want to work for the government and who have signed and who are exemplary employees, put them where you need them. Don't rehire as people retire and offer a voluntary resignation. Now, I get government has blown up a lot. And many private sector what nobody's talking about is a lot of private sector employers are struggling to get staff because in the recent few years, the government hired a lot of them up. And so getting them back to having people who want to work in the private sector is going to help overall the economy, but it just seems really chaotic. And then the idea of these federal judges, I don't understand how they have that kind of power where the president is making an executive order and then the judge in their jurisdiction decides to, or their district decides to halt it, and they could stop a president's action. If it's a legal action, it's confusing. So yes, the Supreme Court now has to get involved. But like I said, we wouldn't be here if they did it my way. 1-877-Doc Daliah, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this headline caught my eye. From Fox News, they say Mexico is poisoning Southern California in a border crisis almost no one knows about. Now, I think we have known about it. It's just media hasn't talked about it. And we even spoke about this years ago, the sewage. If a city, a border town in one country is not controlling their sewage, it seeps into our country. It's fascinating how we're on borders. Like when I was in Europe, I'm like, okay, so I'm in Holland right now. And then if I step over the line, I'm in Belgium. It's crazy how, a border is a line. And you're like, really? I crossed the border? Or I watch these sailing shows, and they're like, yeah, we're on the equator right now. Really? You just crossed the equator from northern hemisphere to southern? Wow. And you're like, I wouldn't have even known. But going back to our border, if we have very, very strict guidelines of sewage in our environment, and somebody just 2 inches away on the other side of the border doesn't have that same concern, it affects us. So we're being told by Fox News that over the past 5 years, more than 100 billion gallons of raw sewage, industrial waste, and toxic runoff from Tijuana have flooded across the border into our communities. 100 billion gallons. They say in 2023 alone, 44 billion gallons crossed into the U.S., the most ever recorded. It has E. coli, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, arsenic, toxic chemicals. Then our water gets contaminated. Our air gets polluted with aerosolized waste. They say residents along the border are reporting skin infections, viral pharyngitis, pets getting sick. They say some beaches have now been closed for over 1,000 consecutive days. That's nearly 3 years of lost access to one of our beautiful wonders that we have here in America. They say Navy SEALs are training just north of the toxic flow. Local families can't enjoy the ocean and tourism is taking a hit. Now, I've been to San Diego. I've been to Southern California, but I haven't really noticed this because nobody's talking about it. And according to this article from Fox News, millions of taxpayer dollars are being spent on this, just like the homelessness crisis. The government is throwing money at the problem, but there's nothing to show for it. Pollution keeps coming, promises keep breaking, and leadership keeps failing. And they say Mexico has failed to fix this. Now, Lee Zeldin is our new EPA commissioner. So while Trump has this resistance to Mexico and what's been going on with the border, hopefully the EPA will get involved. And so this was a very interesting op-ed piece by Jim Desmond, but they're not wrong. And we don't know about it unless the media covers it. Like right now, all we hear about is measles. Okay, measles is now the hot topic. And so we hear, wow, somebody flew into our airports with measles, or unvaccinated individuals now, are causing people to die of measles. And I'd like to know also how many of these individuals are vaccinated and how many of these individuals with measles are migrants. Wasn't there a bunch of Venezuelan migrants last year at a facility in Chicago who had measles? There's been measles outbreaks in migrant facilities. Why? Well, because many individuals are not vaccinated. They're coming across the border. They're not well. If they're in confined spaces, because they didn't come like the olden days with a sponsor or with a job or with although it's hard to have a job when you can't get hired as an illegal immigrant. Or, you have to become a legal migrant, then get a green card and go through a process, which I agree with. There should be a process. But, nobody's talking about the infectious diseases. Tuberculosis is a big thing I'm watching out for. And tuberculosis, a cough that doesn't go away, fatigue, weight loss, coughing up blood, that could come in from other countries. Now, again, we have people flying in and out of America all the time. Yes, we are going to be getting, individuals coming in with something endemic to another country. But our border crisis, as I've said for years, is a public health crisis. Whether it's the sewage, toxic overflow, us not screening medically, the gotaways because they got away and they snuck over the border. And if you really want to make America healthy again, you got to, make the border stricter. If you want to make America safer again, you got to deport criminals. And I know it's not easy. We do not want legal migrants or individuals who are here legally to get, people doing the process correctly to be treated the same way as somebody who cheated the system and criminally came across the border. But my family, were immigrants. They had to wait 20 years to get a chance to come here. And then when they came here, they followed every, rule, learning the language, taking the test, becoming citizens, paying taxes. And it's a mess. And there's going to be a lot of controversy over some of Trump's policies when people find out that somebody who was here legally or trying to go through the legal process had to leave. I mean, we should be able to figure out who's criminal and who's not. And we got to get the Tren de Aragua, we got to get the criminal elements because we've seen them here. They've killed, they've raped, they've stolen. But we have such a problem that Biden created that Trump, to fix it, sadly, there's going to be some unintended consequences. Now, what I would say is if at all you're unsure, put them in a holding facility. Do the background checks, do the screening, figure out, if they're legal or not, if they're criminal or not, and then figure out where to deport them. But right now, the deportations are happening quicker because federal judges keep trying to block them. And so there's this disconnect. And everybody should be on board, whoever came here illegally, and tried to bypass Border Patrol and Customs. They should, if I can't go to Europe and cross the border and try to use their services, and you have to go through a process. And somehow Biden and Kamala Harris made it seem like, don't worry, you could come here. And I feel bad because I understand a lot of migrants were fleeing horrible conditions. I get that. And, and you can't apply for refugee and asylum status And we knew we were going to get Afghan refugees after the horrible pullout that happened in Biden's first year. I mean, but we're at a position now where cities are overwhelmed, hospital centers are overwhelmed, schools are overwhelmed, and this is what the U.S. voters want. So a little less chaos, but from a public health standpoint, if you asked me, what is one of the things we need to do immediately is we need to ensure that whoever is coming across the border passes health checks and does not bring in infectious disease. We don't need any more sick people coming across the border. We have enough sick people in this country. I mean, that's why Ellis Island had their medical exams. They had screens and then they had more thorough exams because they did not want, remember, back then we didn't have antibiotics and other things. You know, tuberculosis comes across the border, you're dead. Millions die. A plague comes across the border, millions die. And so, you can't quarantine everybody. So they did the best they could screening people. And I feel bad because, as a doctor, I want to take care of you if you're sick. But, we've let things go for so long. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Let's get to a couple of your emails. Brandon asks, how often can he take anti-allergy medicine? His allergies are kicking in and they're horrible, and his medicine doesn't last all day. So it depends on the medication you're on. I mean, Benadryl, you could take up to every 6 hours, but that medicine is that antihistamine, the diphenhydramine, is so sedating. So we usually recommend the one-a-day medications like Claritin, Zyrtec, Allegra, so it doesn't make you sleepy. Although some people report that they do get sleepy on some of those medications. They don't make me sleepy, but it's only a once a day. You can't take that medicine more than once a day. We also don't recommend you mix the medicine with Benadryl. If you're going to take one antihistamine, you take one antihistamine. You don't take that once a day and then add Benadryl on top of it. Antihistamines can have their fair share of side effects. And so my recommendation is if you do have severe allergies and your antihistamine isn't cutting it, then definitely talk to your medical provider. They can give you a Kenalog shot. As long as you don't have high blood pressure or diabetes or kidney disease or liver disease, that can help you in terms of have longer control. They could also start inhaled nasal corticosteroids, nasal sprays. That could also help your allergies. I used to use Flonase, but I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, so I get nosebleeds when the air gets really dry. So I just do the Kenalog shot once a year during allergy season. But it's a great question. Just most antihistamines are only once a day. So if it's not cutting it, if it's not working for you, make sure you talk to your medical provider. Also use HEPA filters in the house to get rid of pollen. Leave your shoes and clothes or anything that could have pollen on the outside, so you're not bringing it indoors. Careful with some of the window openings. I need to do it because the dog will have gas, and I'm like, okay, I can't breathe. Then I open the window, and then I start to sneeze. So, sometimes when you open up a window during allergy season, you're going to get more pollen. So those are some things to also be aware of. And like I said, if you feel like you're not getting the relief you need, definitely talk to your medical provider. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Janice writes, Doc, please tell listeners to avoid the Snow White movie. She says Hollywood needs to know if they go woke, they go broke. Plus, the movie stinks. I don't think I have to tell anybody what to watch or what not to watch. From what I understand, the Snow White movie is getting abysmal ratings. I know some, media outlets have said, oh, it's really beautiful, delightful, and Rachel Zegler has an amazing voice, and Gal Gadot did an amazing job. But already the ratings getting horrible reviews. But I find it fascinating. Remember the whole Oppenheimer Barbie thing where, you choose a political side and then you try to help promote the movie as much as possible, and you're reading these reviews and you're like, what movie did you see? I didn't get that from Barbie, or I didn't get that from, Oppenheimer. But anyway, one thing, though, that will be very, very interesting is if Snow White bombs, and I don't want to see anything fail. I like to be very positive. I'd like to see things, grow and progress. But one thing I'm very tired of is politics being in TV and movies. I would like to get through a television show without them bashing Trump or bringing up politics. And if Snow White, all these years, because I think it started filming in 2021, had this back and forth, well, I know we're still Snow White, but we're going to change the story and we're not going to have the prince, and then don't call it Snow White. You could make it a sequel. You could say this is a different Snow White or Snowy White or Snower or something like that. But don't try to take the credit of a 1937, I think, classic, and then but try to make it all politically correct. And mind you, I understand a lot of movies, a lot of things from the past were not very politically correct, and they might have had some very dated ideas. But then again, that's why they're classics, because it gives us that snapshot of what things were like at that time. Like I love watching the I Love Lucy reruns. Yes, they are dated, where she's waiting for Ricky to come home and she's having dinner ready and she's having, but that gives you a little glimpse into what things were like in the 1950s. The style, the clothes, imagine if somebody says, oh my gosh, Daliah, all the women, wearing dresses, that is so stereotypical. It's so biased. We need to remake all these TV shows and put pants on them. But I kind of want to see what things were like in the 50s and the 40s. And I understand we do things differently, and I'm grateful. I love the fact that I could wear pants. But you don't have to completely cancel out something that shows that's what their thinking was. We might not agree with it, but that was that snapshot in time. We don't have a lot of photographs. We don't have a lot of history in its exact form. because everything that we learned before photography and is by stories and by recorders, and if they had a bias, they could change it. And I'm sure movies had bias there too, but you could look at what the street lamps looked like. You could see what food looked like. You could see, I don't know. I like watching old movies and looking around the actors to see what the outlets looked like, what the light switches looked like, the doorknobs. So, I'm not a big fan of changing the past movies to try to please 2025 viewers. And that's what I guess they tried to do with Snow White. But what is fascinating about this, and why I think a lot of people are speaking out about that, is they do have the frustration that Hollywood, it's really hard to get through a movie or a TV show without there being politics. Like White Lotus. I think White Lotus is a very good series. But a couple episodes ago, you had to sit through 5 minutes of, you voted for Trump? What does that have to do with the White Lotus Hotel and the murder mystery and but it's like, we have to put that in there. Well, the only way Hollywood is going to stop talking about Biden or Trump or putting that in is, one, if they just aren't making money. And if the backlash, if they realize they aren't preaching to the choir and that your viewers, your consumers are very mixed politically and they don't want politics. I mean, if there's a political movie like okay, Ronald Reagan, it's about Ronald Reagan. Okay. It's about JFK. It's about World War II. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. Then they know what but don't do false advertising. Don't say this is going to be a story about Snow White, the fairest of them all. A wicked witch. So is the wicked witch also politically incorrect? Why does it always have to be a wicked witch? Why can't it be an evil man? If you notice in Disney movies, it's always a woman, right? The Little Mermaid, the bad guy was a woman, the evil witch. So you could keep going at these movies saying, well, that's going to tick people off. That's going to just don't try to make a political statement. Okay, some people are not going to like certain things about a movie, then they won't watch it. But don't make them already pre-dislike you by, not showing empathy to the Hamas victims, which that's another thing. Rachel Zegler, after what happened to the hostages and the mass killing that happened after Hamas, she quickly goes out to say free Palestine. Free Palestine from Hamas, I agree with. But are you saying free Palestine in terms of what happened to those innocent victims in Israel was justified? What are you doing here? And you're allowed to have your own political opinions. But this is what people are doing. If they don't like you, they're not going to want to sit through a 2-hour movie and support you. And so I think that's why people want to see, I don't want to see anything fail per se, but I think that's why people are so charged against this movie, is because they're hoping, people are less controversial and they're less political, in terms of the movie, in terms of the narrative, so that we could be politics free and escape when we're watching movies and art. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.